"Excuse me, sir. I believe there's been a mistake with my reservation," I told the receptionist, sliding my ID and confirmation across the counter. Before she could respond, a sharp voice cut through the hum of the lobby. "There's no mistake," the manager snapped, stepping forward with his chest puffed out. "We don't serve people like you in the executive lounge." My throat tightened. The words hit harder than I expected, though I'd heard variations my whole life. Behind me, the murmur of guests flickered like flames. "Did he just—" someone whispered. "Shh! Don't get involved!" another hissed. A soft cough, a shuffle of shoes. Silence settling like dust. I turned to face him, steadying my breath. "I've already paid for my suite." "My name is on the reservation," the manager smirked, tilting his head. "Your money doesn't change what you are." His voice dripped venom, but it was the casualness, the ease, that sliced through me. The receptionist's hands trembled over the keyboard. Her eyes darted away when I caught her gaze. She muttered, "I'm sorry, sir. It's policy, policy." The word stung worse than his sneer. Policy had been the excuse for centuries. I clenched my fists in my pockets, forcing my tone to stay even. "Policy doesn't give you the right to strip me of dignity in front of your guests," he laughed, short and cruel. "Dignity? You people come in here demanding respect you haven't earned." Gasps fluttered behind me, but no one spoke up. A businessman shifted uncomfortably, eyes glued to his phone. A woman whispered, "Let's just go upstairs." Their silence was a second betrayal. My chest burned with the weight of it. "Look at them," the manager sneered, sweeping his hand toward the crowd. "No one's defending you. They know I'm right." I swallowed hard. His words echoed with the same bitter taste as every classroom insult, every job interview side-eye, every cop's lingering stare. I leaned closer, lowering my voice, steady and sharp. "No, they're not silent because you're right. They're silent because they're afraid of the cost of speaking truth." For a moment, his smirk faltered. Then he chuckled, dismissive, waving me off like I was a child begging for candy. "Take your things and leave," he ordered, voice loud enough to reach the far corner of the lobby. "Or I'll have security escort you out." My jaw clenched. I could feel every set of eyes drilling into my back, waiting to see if I'd explode, if I'd fulfill the stereotype he dangled like bait. Instead, I straightened my shoulders, lifted my chin, and let the words roll slow and deliberate. "You've mistaken my restraint for weakness, but this isn't the end of this conversation. Not by a long shot." The whispers rippled louder now. A man muttered, "He's handling it better than I would." A woman murmured, "It's wrong, but—" and her voice faded into silence. I looked around the lobby, meeting their eyes one by one. Some looked away, ashamed. Others stared blankly, complicit in their stillness. My chest rose and fell. Every second felt like broken glass beneath my ribs. "You all heard him," I said, my voice carrying further than I expected. "And you chose silence. Remember that when you look in the mirror tonight." The manager's face flushed. "That's enough! Out!" I gathered my confirmation papers, slipping them back into my jacket. My hands shook, not from fear but from the storm caged inside me. As I turned toward the exit, I caught the receptionist's eyes again. She mouthed something. I'm sorry, but I gave no reply. Sorry meant nothing when silence had already done the damage. The lobby's glass doors reflected me back as I stepped outside, tall, steady, unbroken. My reflection stared back like a stranger I'd finally decided to recognize. That was the night I decided. Their comfort ends where my dignity begins. I lingered in the corner of the lobby, forcing my breath into even rhythm. My hand still trembled from the sting of his words. Around me, voices floated like smoke, curling into my ears whether I wanted them or not. "He was right, you know," a man muttered near the elevators. "These places have standards," a woman hushed him quickly. "Keep your voice down." "He'll hear you?" I stepped closer, each word slicing me open further. "You think I haven't already heard?" My voice cracked the quiet. Their faces froze, guilt masked as surprise. One man shifted, tugging at his tie. "We didn't mean—" I cut him off. "You meant every syllable. Silence means consent. Whispers mean complicity." The receptionist tried to bury herself behind the glowing computer screen. Her fingers tapped keys without purpose. I leaned on the counter, lowering my voice. Did you believe him when he called me unworthy? Or did you just decide it wasn't worth your job to disagree? Her lips parted, trembling. I don't make the rules. No, I murmured, my jaw tight. But you enforce them when you stay quiet. Behind me, two businessmen argued in hushed tones. It's just policy, one insisted. No, it's him. He pushes it further than anyone else, the other replied, eyes flicking to me nervously. I turned sharply. Speak louder. If you can analyze me behind my back, you can do it to my face. The first man cleared his throat. Look, nobody wants trouble. That manager, he's difficult. We just avoid conflict. Conflict? I repeated, my voice low, controlled. A man strips me of dignity in front of you, and you call it conflict? You'd rather protect his job than my humanity. The second man dropped his gaze to the marble floor. His silence screamed louder than any insult. I remembered classrooms where teachers ignored slurs thrown my way, offices where colleagues laughed at jokes they swore were harmless. The silence always hurt more than the words. From behind the counter, the receptionist whispered, almost pleading, "Please, sir, don't make this worse. He can call security." I leaned in closer, my voice steady but shaking at the edges. It's already worse. Worse is living every day knowing people like you see and hear and choose to pretend it never happened. Her eyes shimmered with tears she would never shed aloud. I'm sorry. Sorry is cheap when it costs you nothing, I muttered, pushing away from the counter. The manager's voice suddenly boomed across the lobby again, arrogant and cold. Is he still here? I thought I told you to remove him. Gasps flickered through the crowd. A man near the couches muttered, "This is getting ugly." I turned, facing him head on. My chest ached, but my voice carried with a strength I didn't know I still had. You've already exposed yourself. Every eye here has witnessed who you are. You think you hold power, but your words betray your weakness. The manager scoffed, crossing his arms. And yet you're still standing here, begging to be accepted. Begging? My laugh came out bitter, sharp. I don't beg for dignity. I claim it. You just don't know what it looks like because you've never respected it in me. Whispers thickened again, clashing like storm winds. He's right. No, the manager will ruin us if we side with him. Maybe it's time someone challenged him. My chest burned at their hesitation. Half courage, half fear, wrapped in useless whispers. I took a step forward, closing the gap between me and the manager. You think you're safe behind their silence, but silence is a fragile shield. All it takes is one voice breaking through, and the whole lie crumbles. He sneered, but his eyes darted, just for a second, toward the shifting faces of the crowd. I pressed on, voice low, deliberate. And tonight, whether they speak or not, I will remember every one of their faces. I will remember who watched me stripped of dignity and chose comfort over conscience. No one spoke. Not one. The silence stretched, suffocating, heavy as iron chains. I stepped back, drawing a deep breath that steadied the storm inside me. Fine, keep your whispers. Keep your silence. But know this, when truth finally echoes through these halls, it will not remember you kindly. The lobby felt colder as I walked away from the counter, every stare burning holes in my back. Their stillness, their cowardice clung to me heavier than the insult itself. And yet beneath the weight, something else stirred, a fire uncoiling, steadying. If their silence was complicity, then my voice would have to be enough. Enough to cut through whispers, enough to break glass comfort, enough to make them remember. My phone buzzed in my palm, the vibration rattling against my bones. I walked toward a quiet corner of the lobby, every pair of eyes still clinging to me like shadows. My throat felt dry, but I pressed the call button anyway. "Sir?" My assistant's voice came through, crisp but tinged with concern. "Tell me," I muttered, forcing calm through clenched teeth. "The meeting. Is it still here? In this hotel?" "Yes," she replied quickly. "The boardroom is reserved under your name." Everything has been confirmed for weeks. I closed my eyes, biting back the bitter laugh clawing at my chest. And still, I was denied a chair in their lounge. "Good," I whispered. "I'll need you here earlier than planned." "Half an hour?" She hesitated. "Is something wrong, sir?" I glanced at the manager strutting across the lobby, barking orders to staff who nodded with rehearsed obedience. My stomach twisted. Wrong? I murmured, the word heavy on my tongue. No, something is very, very right. But I want every document ready, every projection, every contract. Yes, sir. She lowered her voice. You sound different. Different? I asked, almost amused. Yes, she breathed. Calm, but not calm. Like you're holding something sharp behind your back. Her words cut close to the truth. Maybe I am, I said quietly. Meet me outside the boardroom. No mistakes today. As I ended the call, a staff member carrying a tray of glasses nearly collided with me. She flinched, whispering an apology without lifting her eyes. I steadied the tray before it toppled. You don't have to be afraid of touching me, I muttered, watching her cheeks flush. She hurried away, her silence another stone on the pile already pressing down on me. The manager's voice echoed again, loud and careless. Make sure our VIP guests are treated properly. No surprises tonight? His laugh boomed across the lobby. My jaw tightened. I wanted to confront him then, to strip away the mask in front of them all. But I swallowed the urge. The real strike was waiting upstairs, wrapped in contracts and signatures that outweighed his arrogance 1,000 times over. My phone buzzed again. My assistant hadn't waited. One more thing, she said quickly. The chairman himself asked if you were satisfied with the arrangements. I chuckled, bitter and low. Satisfied? My eyes scanned the polished floors, the guests whispering still. Tell him I'll answer that question in person. 5 minutes into the meeting, she inhaled sharply. Understood, sir. I ended the call and tucked the phone into my jacket. My fingers lingered over the pocket, pressing against the weight of it like an anchor. The air around me seemed thicker, charged with something more than humiliation now. I replayed the words the manager spat earlier. Your money doesn't change what you are. He was wrong. My money wasn't the change. My power wasn't the change. The change was my refusal to shrink when silence begged me to disappear. A bellboy approached timidly, voice quivering. Sir, would you like me to bring your bags to the suite? I studied him for a long moment. His hands shook, the brass buttons on his uniform rattling faintly. Do you want to? I asked softly. His eyes darted toward the manager, then back to me. I just do what I'm told. I leaned closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. Then one day, when you're told to humiliate someone like me, will you do it too? His throat bobbed. He whispered, I don't know. I straightened, exhaling slowly. At least you're honest. He scurried away, leaving me with the weight of his words. I don't know. The most dangerous silence of all. I looked toward the elevators, their doors gleaming like a stage curtain before the performance begins. My pulse steadied. Upstairs waited the very men who would decide the hotel's future, and they had no idea that their manager's mouth had already written his downfall, I whispered to myself, almost tasting the irony. They denied me a seat in their lounge, but they'll hand me the head of their table. The thought carried me forward, step by step, toward the elevator that would take me into the storm. And as the doors slid open, I clenched my fists once more. The humiliation still burned, but underneath it, something sharper glowed, like steel drawn from fire. I pressed the button for the top floor, my reflection staring back in the mirrored panel. My own eyes looked different, harder, steadier. 5 minutes later, I knew the world inside this hotel would not look the same. I stepped back into the lobby, each whisper slicing like glass against my skin. Phones buzzed in curious hands, their screens already angled toward me. The humiliation still burned, but the fire inside had shifted. No longer shame, but something sharper. The manager spotted me instantly, his smirk spreading wide. Didn't I tell you to leave? Or do you enjoy making a scene? His voice carried, heavy and theatrical, as if the audience were his to command. I drew a steady breath. No, you enjoy making a scene. I'm simply answering it. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Someone near the couch muttered, He's not leaving. The manager laughed, short and cruel. Of course you're not. People like you always want attention. You live off pity. My chest tightened, but I stood tall. Attention? I murmured. No, what I want is accountability. Phones lifted higher. Fingers tapped record. The receptionist whispered nervously, "Sir, please." "Let it go," I turned sharply. "Let it go. You heard him humiliate me and you want me to swallow it whole so your shift stays smooth? Silence won't save you when truth comes crashing down." Her eyes darted away, cheeks paling. The manager clapped his hands mockingly. "Bravo, a speech. Do you feel better now?" I stepped closer, closing the space between us until I could feel the arrogance radiating off him. "No, not yet. But you will feel different in 5 minutes." His smirk twitched. "Threats, is it?" "Not threats," I whispered, steady and low. "Promises." The crowd hushed. One man whispered, "Record this, quick." The manager puffed his chest. "You think denying you service makes me the villain?" "No, it makes me the protector of this place. I keep standards high." "Standards?" My voice cracked, anger spilling but still contained. "Standards built on the backs of silence? On policies designed to cut out anyone who doesn't fit your picture of respectability?" He sneered, eyes narrowing. "Don't twist this. You don't belong here." I laughed, sharp, bitter, echoing off the polished walls. "Don't belong? I reserved the suite. I paid more than half the guests here earn in a month. But you—" I jabbed a finger toward his chest, my hand trembling with fury. "You think denying me service makes you powerful." My voice dropped lower, deliberate, each word measured. "Wait 5 minutes." A murmur rolled through the lobby like thunder before the storm. Guests shifted in their seats. Someone whispered, "5 minutes? What's happening?" The manager chuckled, but his voice wavered faintly. Empty words. "You don't scare me." I leaned in close, my breath steady though my heart raced. "I don't need to scare you. You've already undone yourself. All I have to do is let the truth speak louder than your arrogance." Phones buzzed. Fingers tapped. Screens glowed like spotlights aimed at his face. "You're being ridiculous," he barked, though his eyes darted toward the growing crowd. "Put those phones away!" No one moved. Their silence had changed, no longer complicit but curious, hungry. I straightened, pulling my phone from my pocket. I raised it slowly, deliberately. "You want silence? I'll give you a stage instead." The receptionist gasped softly. "Sir, please, don't—" But I ignored her. The manager's voice grew sharper, frantic edges creeping in. "You think recording me will change anything? These people know I'm right. They've always known." I met his glare, my voice calm, razor sharp. "No, they've always been too comfortable to admit they were wrong." Someone near the elevator murmured, "He's turning it back on him." The air tightened. Every second carried weight. My stomach churned. But I refused to blink. "You believe you're untouchable," I whispered, leaning just enough for only he could hear the crack in my tone. "But arrogance blinds faster than any chain. You can't see the fall waiting for you." His lips curled, but his eyes flickered. Fear, brief and sharp, before arrogance drowned it again. "Leave," he snapped, voice louder, desperate now. "Or security will drag you out." I tilted my head. "Do it! Call them! Let them drag out the man whose name is etched into the contract of the very boardroom above us." Gasps rippled again. The whispers clashed. "Wait, what did he say? Contract? Did you hear that? Is he serious?" The manager blinked, confusion flickering. What are you talking about?" I smiled, small and cold. "You'll know in 5 minutes." The crowd's whispers swelled into a storm. Phones lifted higher, screens catching every flicker of fear on his face. Inside, my heart pounded so loud I could barely hear myself. But beneath the rush of blood and fury, one truth held steady. The power was shifting, and for the first time since he opened his mouth, it wasn't his smirk that owned the silence. It was my voice. The elevator chimed softly, but inside me the sound cracked like a drum. My pulse thudded in my ears as the doors slid open onto the top floor. I walked toward the boardroom, my steps echoing louder than I intended. The sting of the lobby still clung to me, but beneath it, power coiled like a storm about to break. My assistant rushed up, clutching a folder. "Sir, everything is set. The executives are on their way." "Good," I muttered, steadying my breath. "Make sure every document is laid out." I want no confusion. She glanced nervously toward the lobby below. What happened down there? Your voice. You sound like fire wrapped in ice. I forced a thin smile. Down there I was denied a chair. Up here they'll hand me the whole table. The heavy doors swung open. A cluster of executives stepped inside, their polished shoes clicking against the floor. Their laughter faded when they saw me at the head of the table. One of them blinked. You're... Yes, I cut in, my tone sharp. The partner you've been negotiating with for the last 6 months. Their eyes darted to one another, shock rippling silently across their faces. The chairman cleared his throat, voice faltering. We didn't expect... You didn't expect me to look like this? I snapped, my hands tightening around the arms of the chair. Did my skin not match the signatures on the contracts? Silence slammed into the room. No one answered. Their stillness was louder than denial. I leaned forward. Do you know what your manager did to me just now? He denied me service in your lobby, in front of your guests, in front of your staff. He humiliated me, and you call this a 5-star standard? The executives shifted, eyes lowering to the glossy table. The shame in their silence mirrored every betrayal I'd endured before. The chairman tried to steady his voice. I'm sure there must be a misunderstanding. Don't insult me with that word. My voice rose, cracking with the weight of rage. Misunderstanding is the coward's shield. What I faced down there was deliberate. He didn't hesitate. He didn't blink. My assistant slid the folder forward, opening it with trembling fingers. Contracts, projections, financials, all the weight of their empire neatly stacked before them. This is the deal you begged me for, I continued, voice low, deliberate. The investment that could carry your chain into the future. And yet you let a man like that be your front face. The door burst open before they could respond. The manager stormed in, chest puffed, voice booming. Why is he here? I told security to remove him. Gasps burst from the executives. One whispered, Oh my God. The manager froze when he noticed where I sat. At the head of the table, contracts spread like weapons in front of me. His face drained of color, but arrogance clung like oil. You, he hissed, pointing a shaking finger at me. You don't belong here. The chairman rose abruptly, voice sharp with panic. Enough, do you have any idea who this is? The manager scoffed. A troublemaker? A man who doesn't know his place. The chairman's voice cracked like a whip. You've just insulted the man who owns the future of this chain. The words cut the air, heavy and final. Gasps echoed again, this time from staff lingering at the door. The manager's mouth opened, then closed, trembling. That can't be true. He's lying. I stood slowly, every muscle taut, every breath deliberate. You denied me service. You mocked my dignity. And now you stand here, stripped of the power you thought you had. The executives stared, eyes wide, faces pale. The manager stammered, I was following policy. No, I snapped, my voice ringing across the boardroom. You were following hate. And hate has no policy that protects it. My assistant's hands shook as she slid another sheet across the table. A termination clause, bold and binding. I pushed it toward the executives. Here is your choice. Keep him and lose me. Or remove him and build your future with me. The chairman looked around the room, his jaw tight. He didn't need to speak. The decision was already sealed in their downcast eyes. The manager's voice broke into a desperate whisper. You can't do this. I leaned closer, my words slow, sharp as glass. 5 minutes ago, you thought denying me a seat made you powerful. But power doesn't come from exclusion. It comes from truth. And the truth is this. Your time ended the moment you opened your mouth. He stumbled back, his face collapsing under the weight of realization. The silence that followed wasn't complicit anymore. It was judgment. I straightened, gathering the contracts with calm precision. This meeting is adjourned. We'll reconvene without him. As I turned toward the door, my chest heaved, the fire still burning but steadier now. Behind me, his voice cracked once more, breaking against the walls. Please don't. I didn't stop. His words no longer held me. For the first time that night, it was me who owned the silence. The elevator doors opened back into the lobby, and I walked out with the executives trailing close behind. The hum of conversation dipped into silence. Every head turned. Phones lifted again, their cameras glowing like watchful eyes. The chairman's voice sliced the air. "Bring the manager here now!" The receptionist froze, her hands trembling on the keyboard. Then, almost in relief, she whispered into the phone for him to return. He appeared moments later, shoulders squared, smirk clinging desperately to his face. "What is this about?" "I already told you, I removed the problem." His eyes darted toward me, voice dripping with the same venom as before. "Why is he still here?" The chairman snapped. "Because he belongs here." "You do not." Gasps rippled through the crowd. I felt the air shift. For once, silence was no longer against me. It weighed against him. The manager's smirk faltered. "Excuse me? I run this lobby. I enforce the rules." I stepped forward, my chest steady, my words sharp. "Rules didn't humiliate me in front of strangers." "You did." His jaw twitched. "It was just policy." "No." My voice rang, cutting through the marble and glass. "It was just you." The crowd stirred. Someone whispered, "He's finished." The chairman turned to the watching staff. "All of you should know the truth. This man just insulted the very partner who holds the future of this hotel chain in his hands." The receptionist's gasp broke into a nervous sob. A bellboy dropped his tray, glasses shattering like the dignity the manager tried to strip from me. The manager's face collapsed, but arrogance clung on. "You can't blame me. I was protecting the reputation of this place. I've worked here 10 years. 10 years! One of the executives snapped back, and in 10 seconds you destroyed it. I locked eyes with him, my voice dropping into a whisper that carried louder than any shout. "You thought silence made you safe. You thought power was denying me service. But look around you." I gestured toward the crowd, their phones raised, their whispers no longer protective but condemning. "Now it's your silence that damns you." His breathing grew ragged. "Please. You have to understand. I didn't mean—" "You meant every word," I interrupted, fists tightening at my sides. "Don't try to rewrite your hate as a mistake. The only mistake you made was believing I'd leave quietly." The chairman's voice cracked like thunder. "Effective immediately, you are terminated. Security will escort you out." A murmur rolled through the lobby, half relief, half disbelief. The manager's face drained. He stumbled forward, hands outstretched, voice breaking into desperation. "Wait, please, I can explain. I didn't know who he was." I leaned closer, letting my voice steady with the calm he never expected. "That's the point. You didn't see me as a man. You saw only what your hate allowed. And now the whole world is watching you fall." Phones clicked. Whispers grew louder. A guest muttered, "Poetic justice." The manager's voice cracked into a plea. "I have a family." I didn't mean— I felt my chest tighten, but I held firm. "When you humiliated me in front of this lobby, did you think of my family? Did you think of the young men and women watching, learning whether silence or dignity will guide their future? No, you thought of yourself. And now everyone else sees you for who you are." His knees buckled, but he caught himself, gripping the counter as if it could anchor him. "Please, just one more chance." I shook my head slowly. "You had your chance. And you used it to spit on dignity." The chairman gestured to security. 2 men in dark uniforms stepped forward. The manager struggled against their grip, his voice cracking, desperate now. "Don't do this. I built this place. I kept standards high," I whispered, letting every syllable cut. Standards built on hate collapse faster than glass. They dragged him toward the exit. His cries echoed, broken, hollow. The receptionist pressed a hand to her mouth, tears streaming. She whispered, "I should have spoken up." I turned toward her, my voice steady. "Yes, you should have. Remember this silence. Don't repeat it." Her sobs deepened, but she nodded faintly, as if the truth had finally sunk in. The lobby was thick with tension, every breath a held chord. Guests stared at me now, not with pity but with something heavier. Respect, maybe, or shame that it had taken so long to surface. I stood still, letting the silence settle, letting his collapse echo louder than his arrogance ever did. Then, with a final breath, I spoke to no one and everyone all at once. 5 minutes ago, he thought stripping me of dignity gave him power. Now he knows dignity can't be stolen. It only exposes those who try. The words hung in the air like judgment written on glass, and as the doors slammed behind him, I knew the collapse wasn't just his. It was the collapse of every silence that had kept him standing until this moment. The lobby doors slammed shut behind him, and for a moment the silence that followed was heavy enough to press on my chest. His cries still echoed faintly in my ears, but now they no longer pierced me. They revealed him. Whispers rose again, but their tone had shifted. He's gone. Can you believe it? Fired, just like that. Serves him right. I turned slowly, my eyes sweeping across the staff and guests. Faces that had once looked away now leaned forward, waiting. Their silence had betrayed me minutes earlier, but now their whispers sought redemption. The chairman's voice broke through, firm but shaking. Effective immediately, he no longer represents this establishment. He is finished here. The receptionist's breath hitched audibly. I didn't think it would end like this. I stepped closer, my voice low but cutting through the murmurs. No one ever thinks silence ends like this. Until it does. The bellboy who had avoided my eyes earlier whispered, I should have spoken up. I turned to him, holding his gaze. Yes, you should have. Every time you stay quiet, hate grows roots. But today those roots were cut. He looked down, shame softening his shoulders. I drew a long breath, my voice steady now. Listen carefully. Let this be clear. Dignity isn't optional, not here, not anywhere. A hush swept through the room, thicker than before. Phones still glowed, capturing every word, every flicker of emotion across my face. One guest near the couches muttered, He's right. We all just watched. We let it happen. Another answered, We didn't stop him. We were cowards. Their guilt vibrated through the air, but I refused to let pity soften my words. Comfort is the weapon of the bystander. You all chose it. But dignity will always outlive comfort. Remember that. The chairman cleared his throat, almost desperate now. Sir, we assure you nothing like this will ever happen again. I met his eyes, sharp and unflinching. Your words mean nothing until your actions prove otherwise. Replace policies that allow hate to wear a uniform. Train your people to stand against silence. Until then, every apology is empty. The executives nodded, some murmuring their agreement. But I wasn't speaking for them anymore. My eyes turned to the staff, the ones who had stood frozen while I was stripped bare. You watched me be denied service in the open, I whispered, my fists trembling as I held them at my sides. You whispered about my place, my worth, my belonging, and 5 minutes later you saw his power collapse in front of you. That's how quickly hate crumbles when truth finally speaks. The receptionist's tears finally spilled. I was afraid. I leaned forward, my voice quieter now, but sharper than steel. Fear will always exist. But courage is not the absence of fear. It's choosing to speak anyway. Remember that the next time silence tempts you. The bellboy nodded, whispering almost to himself. Never again. My chest rose and fell, the fire in me steady now. No longer wild rage, but something deeper, resolve, heavy and calm. Guests shifted uncomfortably. Some avoided my eyes. Others held them with a guilt that looked like confession. You'll go home tonight, I said softly, scanning the crowd. You'll replay this moment. And when you do, ask yourself one question. Did you stand for dignity, or did you let silence chain you? The weight of my words hung in the air, pressing against every corner of the lobby. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, faintly, a woman's voice whispered, He's right. We failed, and that was enough. I turned back toward the chairman, letting my final words settle. This isn't about me anymore. It's about the next man, the next woman who walks into this lobby. They will not endure what I did tonight, not if you mean a word you've just promised. He nodded quickly, his voice hushed. We will change. I exhaled slowly, my body trembling but my spirit unbroken. 5 minutes ago he thought my dignity was his to deny. Now, the world knows better. The crowd's whispers swelled, but this time I didn't shrink beneath them. I let them echo, let them carry the truth I had carved into the air, and as I stood there, tall and steady, I knew the reversal was complete. His collapse had become my clarity. Their silence had become my stage. Poetic justice had spoken. The suite door clicked shut behind me, and silence filled the room like a tide. My chest heaved, the echo of voices still clinging to me, the gasps, the whispers, the pleas. I sank into the chair by the desk, my hands trembling before I forced them flat against the surface. The phone buzzed. My assistant's voice came through, hushed but urgent. "Sir, the news is already spreading. Clips are everywhere. People are calling it justice." I let out a slow breath. Justice? No. Justice would have been silence breaking before hate had the chance to bloom. This is survival made public," she hesitated. "Do you want me to prepare a statement?" "Not yet," I murmured, rubbing my temples. "Tonight I need to prepare something else." "Not for them, for us," her voice softened. "You sound lighter." "Not lighter," I whispered, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. "Clearer." I ended the call and sat in the stillness. My mind clawed backward through years of echoes. I heard the teacher who ignored the slur in class. "Don't make a fuss." I heard the officer who called me boy with a grin sharp enough to cut. I heard the colleague who laughed, then muttered, "It's just a joke." And tonight, I heard the manager sneer. "Your money doesn't change what you are." Each voice pressed into me, a chain of silence and cruelty stretching back decades. But tonight, that chain cracked. I opened my laptop, fingers hovering above the keys, and whispered to myself, "They will forget his name by tomorrow, but they will remember mine." I began to type. Dignity isn't a favor granted by uniforms, policies, or whispers of permission. Dignity belongs to us by birth, unearned yet undeniable. Tonight, in a lobby built to gleam, I was told I did not belong. But belonging is not dictated by arrogance. It is carved by truth. The words flowed, faster now. For every young man watching a camera screen, for every woman hearing silence scream louder than insults, know this: you are not invisible. You are not lesser. And the moment you stand, even shaking, even alone, hate begins to collapse. I paused, staring at the blinking cursor. My throat tightened, but the fire steadied in me. I whispered to the empty room. This wasn't just about me. It never is. I remembered the receptionist's tears. The bellboy's confession. I don't know. Their silence had mirrored every betrayal I'd lived through. But tonight, they witnessed something different. Hate collapsing in public. And perhaps, for once, they learned. The phone buzzed again. My assistant's voice carried a hesitant tremor. "Sir, social media is calling you a symbol. Some say you dismantled hate in real time." I closed my eyes. Symbols are dangerous. They make people forget the cost behind the moment. Remind them I'm a man. Flesh and blood. Anger and grief. Yes, sir. And tell them this isn't victory. It's a warning. Silence has no place to hide anymore. She inhaled sharply, then whispered, "Understood." I ended the call again, leaning back, the city lights shimmering through the window. My reflection stared back, haunted, steady, unfamiliar, and familiar at once. I spoke to it softly. "You carried the humiliation. You carried the silence. But tonight, you carried the fire too." The cursor blinked, waiting. I bent forward and typed the closing lines of the speech I knew I would give. 5 minutes was all it took for arrogance to collapse into desperation. 5 minutes was all it took for silence to turn into shame. Remember this: hate crumbles faster than it builds when truth finally speaks. And truth will always speak through us. I stopped, exhaling. My chest felt lighter, not with relief, but with resolve. I whispered the words aloud, tasting them. Hate collapses. Dignity stands. The room was still, but I no longer felt alone in it. Every voice of the past seemed to echo back, not with chains, but with witness. And in that silence, I knew the night had already moved beyond him, beyond me, into something larger. Quiet justice, quiet power, quiet truth. Tomorrow they would remember my name. The wheels of my suitcase rolled softly against the polished floor. Morning light spilled through the tall glass doors of the lobby, bright and almost cruel in its clarity. My chest tightened when I saw the same desk, the same counter where I had been denied. The receptionist looked up. Her eyes met mine, then darted away as if the weight of last night still clung to her skin. Her hands shook as she slid a paper across the counter. "Sir, your bill has already been cleared." I rested my hand on the desk, steady and deliberate. "That isn't why I came down here." Her lips parted, and for a moment no words came. Then, barely above a whisper, she muttered, "I should have spoken." I saw it, I heard it, and I froze. I tilted my head, holding her gaze. "You froze because silence feels safer than truth. Tell me, was it safe?" Her breath hitched. She shook her head, tears spilling now. "No. I heard the way he spoke to you, the way he humiliated you, and I stood there. I let him." Her confession cracked the quiet of the lobby. A few guests lingered nearby, pretending to read papers, their ears leaning closer. Staff glanced up, pretending to shuffle documents, their shame written in lowered eyes. I whispered, almost to myself, "The silence always roars louder than the insult." She looked at me desperately. "Do you hate me for it?" I leaned forward, voice low, cutting through her trembling. "Hate is easy. Accountability is harder. What I want to know is this. When the next man stands here, stripped of dignity by someone in power, what will you do?" Her voice broke. "I'll speak. I swear it. I won't stand quiet again." I paused, watching her tears stain the desk blotter. My throat tightened, but I forced calm into my tone. "Silence is a choice. Next time, choose differently." She nodded, sobbing into her sleeve, whispering, "Thank you." But I wasn't offering her comfort. I was handing her a burden. A burden she had earned. I lifted my suitcase handle, but her voice caught me again. "Sir, I'm sorry. I'll never forget this." I looked back once, eyes sweeping across the silent faces of staff and strangers who had witnessed every word. "That's the point," I murmured. "None of you should." The lobby seemed to hold its breath. Not one person spoke. Not one person moved. Their silence wasn't betrayal now. It was recognition, weighted and raw. As I walked toward the glass doors, my reflection followed me in the polished floor. Last night it had looked fractured, broken by humiliation. This morning it looked whole, steadied by resolve. The automatic doors slid open, a rush of fresh air hitting my face. I tightened my grip on the suitcase handle. Behind me, the lobby remained hushed, my final words hanging in the space like a verdict. They would carry that silence differently now, and so would I. The glass doors parted with a hiss, and the morning air wrapped itself around me like a judgment, crisp and unrelenting. My suitcase wheels rattled over the stone as I paused at the threshold. Behind me, the hotel lobby still hummed with whispers, guilt, and shifting eyes. Ahead, the street stretched wide, indifferent. "Sir," a voice called softly from behind. One of the junior staff, eyes lowered, voice breaking, murmured, I'm sorry for everything. I didn't turn fully. Are you sorry for me or for yourself?" Her silence answered. I exhaled, steady but sharp. "Remember this, silence is a choice. It protects the comfortable, never the broken." A lump rose in my throat as I stepped further into the sunlight. I could feel them watching from inside, pressing their shame against the glass, their eyes following the man who had been denied a room, yet walked out owning the building's memory. My assistant's voice buzzed through my phone. "The press already has it." The board released a statement. "He's finished." 5 minutes, I muttered, my chest tightening with a strange mix of exhaustion and triumph. It only took 5 minutes for the ground to shift. "Do you want me to schedule interviews?" she asked hesitantly. I shook my head, though she couldn't see it. "No, let them tell the story." My silence will echo louder than his excuses. The cab driver at the curb leaned out. "Need a ride, boss?" His tone carried a warmth, a respect untouched by the poison of the night before. I met his eyes, nodded once, and lifted my suitcase into the trunk. "Yeah, take me to headquarters." As the car pulled away, the hotel shrank behind me, but the moment refused to loosen its grip. My reflection in the window wavered with the city lights. Yesterday, it had been cracked by humiliation. Today, it stood taller, unbroken. I whispered into the hum of the engine, words not for anyone else, but for the weight pressing on my chest. They tried to make me small, but all they did was remind me how large my dignity is. The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror. Say that again, brother? I met his gaze through the glass. My voice came out steady, firm, the final nail in the coffin of that man's arrogance. Racism tried to deny me a chair, but all it did was build me a throne. The words settled into the air, heavy and unshakable. And in their echo, I felt the throne beneath me, one carved not from gold, but from resilience, from the silence that finally broke, from the truth that could no longer be ignored.